Welcome back to Pause to Unedit Yourself, a podcast where reflection meets transformation, where we explore the art of becoming one intentional pause at a time. I'm your host, Anushka, and each episode offers you a chance to press pause and explore bite sized insights and soulful reflections from my own journey of introspection in the hope it will help you too on your path of personal evolution. Whether you're feeling stuck, searching for clarity, or simply wanting to expand, my hope is that this podcast becomes a space of inspiration and deep remembering for you to evolve from within and uncover the infinite potential that exists inside each and every one of you. Today's episode, I wanted to explore something quite powerful, and that is detachment. It's something that we've heard a lot, and I wanted to research it and understand it. I first came across this when I went on my 10-day silent meditation Vipassana last year. And while sitting in meditation, you have to let go. It's the aspect of letting go, of just observing your thoughts and detaching yourself from any kind of outcome. So I wanted to kind of explore uh, detachment and try and give some context to it that I hope will help you to understand it a bit better. So let's start by defining detachment. At its essence, detachment, what some might think is you don't care. Well, actually, no, detachment is not about caring less. What I've learned it's actually about holding life lightly, knowing that we can be fully present in each experience without the need to cling to it. So this idea of detachment actually comes from the Buddhist practice of unattachment, which is to be with any thought, feeling, or experience without getting attached to it. And this comes down to the fact that we can love people and things without allowing them to define us or to pin all of our happiness and our hopes and peace and sense of self love onto that love. Deepak Chopra actually defined the law of detachment as, quote, to get anything in the physical world, you have to detach from the outcome and be in the process, unquote. So when we kind of look at this, what it means is that detachment is presence. It's that act of surrender. It's trusting the process without actually being consumed by that outcome. And I really like this quote by Eckhart Tolle, who says, attachment to things drops away by itself when you no longer seek to find yourself in them. I found this quite powerful because actually, when you think about it, so much of our suffering comes from identifying ourselves with what we have, who we love, or what we expect. And so, detachment, it actually reminds us that we can love deeply, we can care fully, and we can act intentionally and still not be owned by any of it. And it's quite difficult to grasp this concept of detachment because we've been programmed to believe certain things around who we are and the expectations that we should have of people and what love is and how our world should be formed. And that's actually what I found is that the root cause of so much of our unhappiness is placing so much importance on that outcome. And what I've realized is that you do your best in every kind of situation. You do need to take that action, but you then kind of let go. It's that act of surrendering that I've done my best. Um, and whatever is going to happen for the best. I'm not attaching myself to a particular outcome or a desired outcome. So actually, there are some laws of detachment which that I discovered, and these are some of the guiding principles or kind of laws to kind of live by. And the first one is allow others to be who they are. You cannot control somebody else's path because you're on your path and they're on their path. And so actually the peace lies in releasing that illusion. When you release that illusion and when you release that control. The second one is allow yourself to be who you are without comparison, without needing to be more or less, just be. The third one is don't force a situation. What flows, flows. What blocks, blocks. The fourth is solutions will emerge. You don't need to control everything. Life is wise. Let the answers reveal themselves in time. And the last one is uncertainty is reality. Embrace it. As Deepak Chopra said, in detachment lies the wisdom of uncertainty. And in the wisdom of uncertainty lies the freedom from our past, from the known, from the prison of conditioning. These are some amazing guiding principles that have really helped me and continue to help me. So you might be wondering, well, that's great. I've explained what detachment is and the laws, but what I want to do now is to kind of explain what detachment is not. Detachment is not apathy. It's not numbness. It's not cold indifference because that's what apathy is. Detachment is actually a conscious choice to remain emotionally aware, yet not emotionally entangled. That's the difference. It's being conscious, and it comes from an act of love to self and to others, to stay centered. Whereas on the other hand, apathy is the absence of emotion. And it often comes about from helplessness in or disillusionment. Think of this as detachment keeps your heart open and apathy shuts it down. Think of detachment, as that conscious choice to remain unaffected by outcomes. Having that awareness and understandings of your emotions and that it's actually a conscious decision that you make to maintain a distance for the sake of mental peace and clarity. Apathy, on the other hand, is very much so that aspect of lack of interest, the lack of enthusiasm. It's the absence of emotion or the motivation to kind of engage with life's experiences. Detaching is also seen as a healthy coping mechanism because it helps you to kind of navigate life's ups and downs. But apathy, on the other hand, is that negative state and it's sort of rooted in that disengagement from the world around and that kind of lost connection. I hope that kind of brings some context to it because it's something I've had to take some time to get my head around it. So, as we kind of explore this aspect, detachment and letting go to the outcome, it's interesting to see like why we struggle to let go. I sat with this for a while and wanted to understand it. And what I understood was it's because we believe our happiness, our identity, and even our safety, it's actually tied to something outside of us, like that people, it's tied to the status, the opinions of others, outcomes. And I like this quote by Eckhart Tolle, who says that when you are detached, you gain a higher vantage point from which you're able to view the events in your life instead of being trapped inside of them. Unquote. You see, so much of our heartbreak comes from attachment to the illusion of a story that we tell ourselves. You see, we think we lost something we needed, but in actual fact, and this is that aspect of that work, that inner work, is we realize that what we needed was always within us. So here are a few reflective prompts for you to kind of help you understand what you might be attached to. So ask yourself, what was I so attached to that when I didn't have it, I felt broken? What belief did my ego attach to this experience? Some quite deep questions to reflect on. You see, the more attached we are, it becomes really difficult to flow with life, to surrender to the river of life. And you miss out on so many different opportunities because you're stuck attached to a certain way that you want your life to go, or a certain outcome. You're attached to that narrative. And it's tough, don't get me wrong, it's really tough, but that's what it takes, that work to sit and reflect, and to shift your perspective, to shift your thoughts, to create um, you know new thoughts, to create the reality that you desire. It does take time to press pause, and that's something that all of you are listening are doing, because you're giving yourself that space to do it. And it's a journey, right? And I think that's one of the things you have to realize, is that the universal law is that the only thing that is constant is change. Life is in constant movement, and this attachment, it just wants to control. And so this is the aspect of living in the present moment, coming into the here and now, why it's so important. This process of letting go is really challenging, and it is really uncomfortable. But one of the things that I've learned is that it's actually in this discomfort that we evolve and grow. And when we start to shed old patterns or attachments to identities, the beliefs and expectations that have been so ingrained throughout our lives, when these old concepts die, this is when we evolve and find freedom. This is when we get closer to our true essence. So, really take the time out to explore what you need to let go of and what you need to make room for, because that will be the path to becoming a better version of yourself. And whatever you're attached to will become the root cause of your pain and suffering. If it's an opinion, if it's a belief, it's a person. And I've done a whole episode on suffering as well. So do go and have a listen to that if you would like a deep dive. And when we have that attachment with something or someone, we get attached to that we believe will provide us security. We look for that external validation for ourselves. And really, to be free, you need to know yourself. So you don't need to seek validation in anything external. So now that we've explored why we struggle to let go. And now's the time where you're probably asking, well, okay, that's all well and good. Well, how can I learn to let go? I've realized this act of letting go, it's not something just happens just like that when you click your fingers. It's not a one-time act. It's actually a practice. It's a becoming, and it takes time, right? You start to let go when you allow for what is to be. When you let go, when you don't resist the change, when you stop trying to force love, and when you release the illusion that you can control the outcome. So, all of these are sort of like the practices that you have to become mindful of, become aware of every single day. And so that becomes a practice until it becomes a habit. And I like this quote by young Pueblo who says that flowing instead of forcing is easier when you intentionally let go of attachments. So, how do we actually begin? Well, to let go of your attachments to outcomes, you need to start focusing on doing your best without fixating on the results and allow for things to unfold naturally, to trust the process. And this is a hard part. It's about accepting whatever outcome comes of it. And that's that aspect of letting go and understanding that whatever is happening is for the best. Like you've done your best and that outcome has happened for your best. You need to start observing your mind. And that is a process of where you need to really have that level of awareness. Like notice what it actually clings to, what outcomes, what people, what identities. And when you start observing it, you realize it's actually the ego trying to find that safety. So focus on doing your best without fixating on the results and really allow for things to unfold naturally. Trust that process and accept whatever outcome, become a witness, and you will observe the ego's tendencies to kind of seek that validation, to control. And when you start into this state of observation, you will recognize that your true essence will start to transcend those limited constructs of the ego. And it will start to find liberation in letting go of attachment. I find decluttering really helps. And in that process is also sort of releasing your attachment to possessions. Because once you understand that all of your material possessions, they're literally just temporary and they don't ultimately define who you are, your true identity. So think of cleaning out the wardrobes or getting rid of things. The other thing is accepting impermanence and realizing that everything external is finite and everything internal is infinite. There are things that are transient and things that, subject to change. And you've just got to embrace the ebbs and the flows of life without really clinging to the illusion of permanence. Be okay with discomfort, because growth requires shedding and shedding is uncomfortable, but that's how we evolve. And really take that time to return to the present because most of our suffering, as I've said many times before, is it's from living in that future, which have you ever been to, or the past. And it's only in the now, in the present, in the eternal now, where we find peace. And realize that letting go doesn't mean forgetting, by the way. It means you are no longer reacting from that old energy. It means that you've made peace with what was and you're choosing what is. And it really takes a lot of self awareness and intentional action, practice, and time to practice this aspect of letting go. Because in this act, it is actually getting to know yourself better. It's a really powerful way. So to kind of wrap up here, we were all kind of seeking freedom, that aspect of liberation, and detachment is a path to freedom because whatever you're attached to, a person, belief, or expectation, remember, it has that power to cause you that suffering. And so the deeper truth is that when you're no longer defined by what you own or who loves you or what you achieve, it's at that point is when you become free. And then from that freedom, there is something absolutely beautiful that happens. You know what that is? You no longer chase life. And you must be saying, well, what do you mean you no longer chase life? No, you don't no longer chase life. What happens is that you align with it. You begin to flow with the rhythm of the universe, unattached, but deeply connected. And so detachment isn't about dropping the desire. No, you must always have the desire, but it's about dropping your entitlement to the outcome of your actions. So it's focusing on the what and the why, but not on the how and the when. And it's as the saying goes, detachment is not that you own nothing, but that nothing owns you. And that is real strength. That is real love. That is real peace. So I invite you now to sit with this question. What in your life is asking to be released? And what are you clinging to? And who might you become if you trusted the flow just a little more? Thank you for pausing with me today. I know your time is super valuable, it's the most precious commodity. So, thank you for being here and sharing this space with me. And thank you for choosing to journey inward and daring to become the highest expression of yourself. As always, I use these episodes as reminders for myself, like mini guides that you can refer to whenever you need a check in with yourself for a moment of recalibration. So do feel free to save them and please do share them with someone who might need to hear them. And please do share your comments and feedback too. It really helps me to know what you would like to hear more of. See you on the next episode.